Everyone talks about the joy of traveling after retirement, but almost no one talks about the invisible walls that stop seniors from ever leaving home. If you've ever felt that travel is slipping away from you, stay with me. Because the truth is, these barriers can be broken, and your journey isn't over yet. Subscribe now, because here we face the struggles no one else dares to talk about. No one really prepares you for the silence that comes when you try to travel after 60. You see the glossy brochures, the smiling couples in commercials, the picture-perfect beaches, and you think, why not me? But the truth, spoken rarely and quietly, is that for many older adults, travel becomes less about adventure and more about obstacles. It starts in small, almost invisible ways. The hesitation when you're packing your bag, wondering if your back can handle the weight. The pause at the airport escalator when suddenly the steps look steeper than you remember. The thought of long security lines and tight airplane seats doesn't bring excitement, but dread. And then there's the silence, a silence that follows you into the kitchen when you glance at your passport, still valid, but unused. The silence of an empty chair at the dining table because the friends you used to travel with are gone, busy, or no longer able to join. The phone doesn't ring with an invitation, and suddenly the dream of travel feels more like a reminder of what you've lost than what you could gain. For many men and women past 55, this silence is louder than the roar of any jet engine. Retirement promised freedom, but instead it sometimes brought a cage, physical limitations, financial worries, or even the fear of being a burden. And let's be honest, society rarely talks about this. They celebrate young backpackers and honeymooners, but leave out the seniors who still crave discovery, who still have stories inside them waiting to be written. If you're feeling that tug of disappointment, that sense that travel is no longer meant for you, hear this clearly. You are not weak. You are not alone. Countless people over 55 sit in that same living room, staring at the same clock ticking away, feeling the same ache of missed opportunities. It's not just about age. It's about barriers no one wants to admit exist. Airports designed without enough rest areas. Tour packages that treat seniors like a burden instead of explorers. Families that say, maybe it's better you don't go, without realizing how those words cut deep. Even friends fade from the picture, leaving you to wrestle with the thought, do I even belong on the road anymore? Picture this, the suitcase in the corner of the room, half covered in dust. The travel guide you bought last year, now serving as a coaster on the coffee table. The plane tickets you browsed online but never clicked purchase for because something inside whispered, maybe it's not worth the trouble. These are not just objects. They're reminders of a silent enemy, one that kills the joy of travel before the journey even begins. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. Feeling this way doesn't mean your traveling days are over. It means you're standing face to face with the invisible barriers that no one wants to name, but that can be broken, one step at a time. How the barriers creep. The barriers don't show up all at once. They sneak in slowly, like a shadow stretching across the floor as the sun sets. One day, you were strong enough to carry a suitcase through a crowded train station without a second thought. And then, almost without noticing, you began to hesitate. You wondered if the bag was too heavy, if the crowd was too fast, if the stairs were too steep. That's how these hidden barriers work. They don't shout, they whisper. It might start with your body. Knees that used to carry you up mountains now complain after a short flight of stairs. The simple act of walking across a long airport terminal feels like a marathon. Your energy dips, and suddenly you're calculating not just the price of the trip, but the cost of recovery afterward. Then there's the mind. The excitement that once bubbled at the thought of a new city is replaced by anxiety. What if I get lost? What if I can't keep up? What if something goes wrong and I'm too far from help? Travel becomes less about possibility and more about risk. It's like rust eating away at a strong steel tool. No matter how sturdy you once were, left unattended, even the strongest edges dull. And let's not ignore the emotional weight. Loneliness plays its part here too. Friends who once filled hotel rooms with laughter are gone, or too tired to plan another trip. Children are busy with their own lives, often quick to say, "Maybe next year, Dad," or "It's too much trouble for you, Mom." Without meaning to, they plant seeds of doubt that grow into walls. These barriers aren't just inconvenient, they're dangerous. Research shows that loneliness and lack of movement can cut into your health as sharply as any illness. The silence of an unused passport, the stillness of a body that no longer ventures out, becomes its own kind of sickness, not a disease of the flesh, but of the spirit. And yet, here's the cruel trick. The world keeps selling the dream of travel, but rarely acknowledges these invisible walls. Advertisements show silver-haired couples smiling on cruise decks, but they don't show the anxiety before boarding, or the struggle of navigating endless corridors on unsteady legs. They don't show the senior who cancels the trip at the last moment, not because they don't want to go, but because the thought of facing those obstacles alone feels heavier than any suitcase. That's the reality, barriers disguised as silence. They creep in until one day, without even realizing you've stopped trying. The suitcase is never unpacked because it was never packed. The window to the world shrinks smaller until the only view left is the one from your living room chair. But before you think this is where the story ends, remember, rust can be cleaned, strength can be rebuilt, barriers can be broken. The power to reclaim travel doesn't start with an airline ticket or a tour package. It starts with one decision: refusing to accept the lie that your traveling days are behind you. Because here's the good news: you don't need someone to rescue you. You don't need the world to suddenly change. You can start breaking these barriers yourself, one small action at a time. Breaking the barriers, reclaiming the journey. Here's the truth. Those barriers standing in your way may look permanent, but they are not unbreakable. They are not walls made of stone. They are more like fog, thick when you stand still, but fading as soon as you begin to move. The first step isn't about booking a plane ticket or planning a grand adventure. It's about reclaiming movement, purpose, and connection. You don't need to climb mountains or cross oceans to start. You just need to take back the pieces of yourself that travel once awakened. Maybe it starts with your body, a short daily walk, a stretch each morning, not to train for a marathon, but to remind yourself that your legs are still yours, that the world is still reachable. Even a 10-minute walk around the block can become your first act of rebellion against stillness. Because every step you take today is a step toward the journeys waiting tomorrow. Then your passions. Dust off that old skill that once made you proud. Maybe you used to sketch landscapes or keep a travel journal or take photographs. Return to it. These sparks reconnect you to the explorer you once were, proving that curiosity doesn't expire. It only needs to be reawakened. And connection. Never underestimate it. Travel is not only about places, it's about people. Find a local group, a class, or even an online community of seniors who share your interests. Say yes to small invitations. Invite a neighbor for coffee. Join that group trip, even if it feels intimidating at first. Every conversation is a bridge that takes you closer to the journeys you thought were lost. Don't forget the tools at your disposal. The internet is no longer just for the young, it's for everyone. There are groups, forums, and communities where seniors share travel tips, form partnerships, and even organize group adventures designed with your needs in mind. What once felt isolating can turn into belonging if you're willing to take the first step toward connection. Here's what matters most. Breaking these barriers is not about asking for help out of weakness. It's about taking back your strength. It's not surrender, it's defiance. When you choose to walk, to connect, to plan even the smallest journey, you're proving that age does not mean the end of exploration. Picture it. Instead of that suitcase gathering dust, It's sitting open on the bed, ready for the next weekend trip. The clock that once ticked away in silence now marks the countdown to your departure. The empty chair at the table is no longer a symbol of loneliness, but of stories waiting to be shared when you return. Travel at this stage of life doesn't have to look like it once did. It doesn't need to be fast or flashy. It can be slower, more intentional, and deeply meaningful. A nearby town, a short road trip, a day exploring a museum you've never visited, all of these count. Each one chips away at the barriers until they are nothing but echoes of a silence you no longer obey. The invisible enemy of senior travel is strong, but you are stronger. The journey is not over. It has simply changed. And the moment you choose to acknowledge the barriers, instead of pretending they don't exist, you also choose to overcome them. Because travel is not just about where you go. It's about proving to yourself that you are still alive, still curious, still capable of writing new chapters. And that is something no age, no obstacle, no silence can ever take from you. Think about it for a moment. How many dreams have been postponed? How many places left unseen, not because you couldn't go, but because invisible barriers whispered that you shouldn't? That voice is not truth. It's fear disguised as logic, silence disguised as safety. But here's what you need to hear. Your story is not over. Your journey is not finished. The map of your life still has open spaces waiting to be filled with footsteps, memories, and laughter. Travel doesn't always mean crossing oceans. Sometimes it's a weekend away, a train ride to a nearby town, or simply the courage to join a group of strangers who might one day become friends. Every step is proof that you are still moving, still living, still refusing to surrender to the silence. And if you've ever felt that weight, the empty chair at the table, the passport unused, the hesitation that tells you it's easier to stay home, I want you to know this. You are not alone. Thousands of people your age are facing the same invisible barriers, the same fears, the same quiet battle, but together we can break them. So let me ask you, what barrier has been holding you back? Share it in the comments. Your words might be the very thing another person needs to hear tonight. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe, because here we don't just talk about travel. We talk about freedom, resilience, and the courage to keep moving forward, no matter what age you are. The barriers are real, but so is your strength. The silence is heavy, but your story is louder. And the next chapter of your journey, it's waiting for you to take the first step.